Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into Penelope Sky's novel, The Butcher. It's the first book in her Fifth Republic series.
Yep, and we've got the Goodreads page, handy plot summary, author info, genres, publication details, plus a whole bunch of reader reviews and quotes. Lots to dig into.
Our mission for this deep dive is basically to figure out what makes The Butcher tick for its readers, what are the key parts, what's the core appeal.
Okay, we want to give a solid overview based on what people are actually saying about it.
Okay, so the story starts with Fleur. 3 years married, finds out her husband's cheating, and get this, it's the mistress who tells her. Fleur thinks her husband just didn't have the balls to do it himself. Pretty harsh.
Wow. Yeah, it's got to sting.
So she leaves him.
Yep. Leaves, gets a job as a bartender, trying to sort of reset her life.
That betrayal is definitely the catalyst, isn't it? It pushes her into this new space. There's this quote from her thoughts, something like, "I want a man who keeps his word and is so brutally honest that it's almost cruel." Oh yeah, I saw that. It's kind of foreshadowing, right? Considering who she meets next.
Totally. It sets up this desire for intense honesty, even if it's harsh.
So Fleur's thinking, okay, maybe something casual now. Easy and no strings attached, I think she says.
Right, like a rebound maybe?
And then Bastian walks into her bar. She describes him as, like, the most beautiful man I've ever seen. Instant connection. She calls it a forest fire.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the cheating husband isn't the main thing on her mind.
Not at all. But here's the contrast you mentioned earlier. She wants casual.
But Bastian, he seems to want her all to himself right from the get-go. That possessiveness is there early on.
Definitely. They have this, well, really passionate night. Fleur's kind of thinking, okay, one and done. Closure.
But Bastian has other plans.
He absolutely does. And then comes the big twist. She finds out who he really is. He's the butcher.
Right. The crime lord of all crime lords in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who apparently runs the show in the underworld.
Yeah. That throws her whole easy and no strings plan completely out the window.
For sure. And looking at the Goodreads genres, listed romance, dark mafia romance, contemporary, adult, suspense, you really see the mix Sky is going for.
It's not just a love story.
No, not at all. The crime element adds that danger, that moral gray area. It's probably exactly what draws a certain kind of reader in, that blend.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the reviews, you see patterns. A lot of readers call Fleur a strong and independent female lead. That seems pretty key for this genre.
Uh-huh. And Bastian is the morally gray but compelling male lead. That's a classic dark romance trope, right? The bad boy you can't help but be drawn to.
Exactly. That tension between, him being a crime lord but also magnetic, that's clearly part of the appeal. Morally gray meaning, well, he operates outside the usual rules, does bad stuff, but maybe has his own code.
Yeah, something like that. Something readers find intriguing anyway. And you can't ignore the chemistry reviews mention intense sexual chemistry or just straight up call it smut.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems to be a big part of the expectation and, for many, the satisfaction.
Definitely. Then there's this mention of a secret society, the Fifth Republic. It sounds like maybe it's background for now.
Yeah, it suggests a bigger world, maybe something for later books in the series. Adds a bit of intrigue beyond just them.
It's also interesting that honesty keeps coming up. Despite Bastian being, the butcher, readers praise his brutal honesty.
Which links right back to what Fleur wanted after her husband's lies.
Exactly. So it's this twisted kind of integrity that resonates. Plus, the whole power dynamics and possessiveness thing is front and center. That's core to their dynamic.
Okay, so plot-wise, it seems the start of the book really focuses on them getting together, right? That initial pull after they meet.
Yeah, the reviews suggest it's heavy on their relationship development early on, that intense connection.
But he's not just some random guy. He's part of this underground government, the Fifth Republic. One review even mentioned him breaking up a sex trafficking ring.
That's interesting. So he's a crime lord who polices other criminals.
Seems like it. Makes him more complex than just a villain. He has his own rules, his own targets within that world.
That adds layers, for sure. Avoids him being just, mustache-twirling evil. Then there's his brother, Godric. Sounds like he might be trouble. Kidnapping mentioned.
Yeah, it looks like a potential antagonist. So external threats, not just their internal issues.
Then Fleur's got her own stuff going on. Still dealing with the ex. The divorce isn't final.
Right. So she's hesitant about jumping into something serious, especially with someone this intense and dangerous. Makes sense after being betrayed.
Yeah, that internal conflict probably makes her feel more real to readers.
Yeah.
And the ex, Adrian, might still be hanging around.
Looks like it. The divorce issues could definitely complicate things further for her and Bastion. More drama potential.
Okay, so let's talk about what the actual readers are saying on Goodreads. It's definitely mixed on some points.
Yeah, like the whole butcher thing. One reader, Sean Ice Perry, was basically like, where was the butchering? Held it was more romance and divorce drama than crime.
Ah, so maybe the title set up an expectation for more explicit butchering or just general crime activity than the story delivered, at least initially.
Seems like it. Like the name might be more about his reputation or ruthlessness in general, not necessarily literal violence being shown all the time.
That makes sense. But on the flip side, tons of readers seemed really into the chemistry between Fleur and Bastion.
Oh, yeah. Amber Carpenter loved that Bastion was brutally honest to a fault and had a strong moral character despite everything. That honesty thing again.
It really seems to be a key positive for a lot of people. Maybe it feels, I don't know, safer or more reliable than outward charm that could be fake, especially after Fleur's experience.
Yeah, maybe. It's definitely a subversion of the crime lord being praised for his honesty.
But it wasn't all positive. Some readers found the plot lacking. Danielle Marie called it extremely flat.
Ouch. And she mentioned too much repetitive sex, and this made me chuckle, an absurd amount of analogies during those scenes.
Huh. Okay, yeah. So for some, the balance was off. Too much focus on the physical, not enough plot progression, and apparently maybe some awkward analogies.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's always subjective, though, isn't it? What one person loves, another finds repetitive.
Definitely. And another reader, Alexis, felt the potential of Bastion's role, and the conflict with his brother wasn't really explored enough in this first book, like the plot got lost.
That can happen with series starters, right? Setting up a lot, but maybe not resolving much yet. Leave some readers wanting more plot payoff immediately.
It's a tricky balance. Introduce the world, introduce the conflicts, but also tell a satisfying story in book one.
And then there's the possessiveness. We talked about that. One reader, Tiff, quoted him, "Girlfriends are for pussies. This here is my woman."
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's direct.
For sure. And in dark romance, that kind of alpha male possessiveness can be part of the appeal for some readers. Fits the power dynamic they expect.
Right. But for others, that might be a major turnoff. It really depends on what you're looking for in the genre. That line between protective and controlling is definitely blurry sometimes.
Very true. But despite these criticisms, the overall vibe seems pretty positive, wouldn't you say? A lot of readers enjoyed the dark romance, they're invested in the couple, they want the next book.
Yeah, the numbers support that. A 3.95 average rating from over 13,000 ratings on Goodreads. That suggests it hit the mark for a lot of its target audience.
It really does. It clearly delivered what many dark romance fans were looking for, even with those specific critiques.
And we should probably mention the author Penelope Sky. She's a big name in this space.
Right, a New York Times and USA Today bestseller, known specifically for dark romance. Sold over 1 million books.
So people picking this up likely know her style, or at least her reputation. That builds a certain expectation and trust.
Definitely. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive on The Butcher. It's a dark romance, focuses on Fleur recovering from betrayal and getting swept up with Bastion, this super intense, possessive crime lord in Paris.
It mixes their strong chemistry with this backdrop of a secret criminal organization, the Fifth Republic.
So, key takeaways for listeners. If you like strong female leads, morally gray heroes, the possessive kind, steamy romance, and a touch of danger and underworld stuff, The Butcher might be up your alley.
But just be aware, some readers wanted more plot beyond the main relationship, and opinions differ on, well, the darkness and the explicitness of it all.
Right. And that leads us to our final thought. What is the appeal of dark romance? Why do readers gravitate towards these stories with tricky power dynamics and morally ambiguous characters?
Is it escapism? Exploring darker desires? The thrill of the taboo? Or maybe something deeper about connection in extreme situations?
Definitely something interesting.